had to put my handkerchiefs away. I ironed them. Well, it was a beautiful summer evening, and I rode home after dinner. After dinner, out alone, sitting at a bar. I walked into this very crowded restaurant in the West Village, and I asked if there was a seat at the bar, and they said there's one right in the corner. And I sat down and I just tucked myself in, and I thought, this is absolutely perfect. I get to look out at the whole restaurant. I have a view. I have theater before me. And I had an event that I had to go to before dinner. But I left my phone at home, which I love doing. I didn't have to look up any directions. I knew where I was going. I knew what time I had to be there. I gave myself plenty of time, so I didn't need my phone, and just left the thing at home because I have to say I don't like that device. I wish I didn't have to have it. I wish nobody had to have it. So when I can be without it, it's a pleasure. And I spent my dinner alone with myself, just looking and thinking, and it was wonderful. And it led me to one of the thoughts that I have regularly. Who is your best friend? Who is the person out there that you can spend the most amount of time with? Who is the person that both challenges you to become better, but that supports you and encourages you when you're at your lowest lows? I have to say and admit that for a long time, I didn't really have that person in my life. And here and there were moments when that person existed, and they happened to be different people. And eventually, that person became me. And it really wasn't always that way. It took a certain amount of cultivation for that to happen. It also, ironically, took the support and push from my closest friends for me to change myself to become a person that was the person that I loved the most. And that can sound completely vain and self-indulgent and egotistical, but I want to say that that's not what I mean. There are going to be times in everyone's life when you are completely alone, physically and mentally. And if you are able to cultivate a very good relationship with yourself, where you actually do become your own best friend, it will serve you really, really well. As I said, this was something that I didn't really know and I didn't really work on consciously. It just kind of happened. But now I'm in this position where I am so grateful that I'm my own best friend. There's a lot of work that has to go on in here in order for that to happen. You can't hate yourself. And I was able to identify that there were things that I hated about myself and hang-ups that I had, which I worked through physically and mentally. And it was a lot of work. It took years for that to happen. It took years for me to be able to look into a mirror and not say ew as the first reaction. Where does that come from? Well, I was able to figure out where it came from. And I think everyone can do the work to figure out where those thoughts come from. for me personally, when I was growing up, uh, from when I was a very little kid to even when I was a teenager, when we would visit sort of obscure relatives, one of the things I heard often, usually from an auntie, like a distant auntie, was, as soon as they saw me, was, "Ah, yan ni karta poninga," or "Hininga melicha poninga." Well, "Ninga karta poninga" means, "What happened to you? You got really dark." "Ninga melinja poninga" means, "What happened? You got really skinny." So there was a point in my life where I realized, like, it was a big revelation, wow, it makes so much sense that the guys that I'm attracted to, my type, are muscly, big, blonde-haired, blue-eyed men that are pale. Ay, ninga melange poninga. You got skinny, big, muscly. Ay, ninga karta poninga. Oh, you got really dark, pale, blonde-haired, blue-eyed. And that revelation was mind-blowing. But it took many years for me to sit with myself and figure out why is this way? And I through a lot of digging, went back to that. So if you do the work, and if you figure out what the things are that are standing in your way from completely loving yourself to the point where you really are the person you love the most in this world. I think it actually is different if you're a parent. I have to say I can't relate because I'm not a parent. But my assumption is, in the human existence, having a child changes everything. I think I would guess that when you have a child, that is probably different. The child does become the thing you love the most in the world, more than yourself. So this excludes those relationships, which I cannot speak to because I haven't experienced that. But I will say that in terms of friendship and kinship, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. Now when I look in the mirror, it's a very different thing. I look in the mirror and often I say, "Damn, boy, you fine." But that took work. And now the type is no longer blonde-haired, blue-eyed men. It's all kinds. And I am shocked to walk around the city and to actually feel who I'm attracted to. It's like, it has changed so much, but it has changed because of the work that I've done in here. And coming back to this best friend thing, when you are your own best friend, it's a very powerful relationship. I was thinking tonight as I sat alone at the bar eating my dinner, I don't think I will ever feel like I have enough time with myself. I really, over every opportunity to be with someone else, aside from maybe 2 or 3 people, I would really rather be alone, because when I'm alone, I'm actually having a conversation and I'm thinking about things and working through things and making jokes with myself and actually sort of laughing internally. And it's wonderful. That's the good side of things. For the dark side of things, when you're at your lowest lows, when you feel like there are no answers, if you're your own best friend, you have someone to rely on. You have yourself to rely on. I think of the moments in my life when I was really at my lowest lows. One of them was losing my mom. And the year after losing my mom, I came back from the funeral. I came back to New York, And I was in just a daze. Like for a year, for a full year, I look back at that time and I, I, I was just kind of asleep. And there were so many nights when I would just go out with friends and get wasted and ride my bike back along the Hudson River. And I would just look at that water at 2 or 3 a.m. and I would think how easy it would be to just end everything. And I think it was healthy to allow myself to think about that, because I had myself as my best friend. So when the dark side of me thought about just ending everything, the side that was strong, that was inside, took my own hand and said, and that is okay that you are thinking those thoughts, because now we will ride our bike home and we will go to bed and we will go to sleep and we will wake up tomorrow, and tomorrow something else will happen. That is really an extremely valuable thing to have, that relationship with yourself. But it only comes from cultivating it. It doesn't just happen. If you think about who your best friends are outside of yourself, think about the things that make you love that person. Why do you love them? Why do you love them so much? What makes you define them as your best friend? And if you can actually write those qualities down on a paper, then on a piece of paper, then I would say try to cultivate those qualities with yourself. If one of the things about your external best friend is they're so easy to talk to, well, try to cultivate that with yourself. Try to make yourself a person that is so easy to talk to. But in order to talk to yourself, you need to give yourself that time. So this is why I am an advocate of things like ironing, where you don't have a device with you and you don't have something playing on a screen. You just have your ironing and you just do it. This is why when I am walking on the sidewalk around New York, I never, ever, ever, ever pull my phone out. If I have to look something up, I will step off to the side and stop and pull my phone out. I have never. I don't think I have. Maybe a couple times. But I don't want to, and I will never consciously pull my phone out while I'm walking. While I'm walking, I'm walking. And I'm thinking, and I'm actually speaking to myself. So in order to cultivate a dialogue with yourself, you need to give yourself those opportunities and the time to do that alone when you're not with other people. If you think about your friends and your best friends or your best friend and you think, well, they're really supportive, be that for yourself. When you hear yourself criticizing yourself and putting yourself down, just stop that and think about what a close friend or your best friend would say to you, and say those things to yourself, like looking in the mirror and going, damn, boy. Like, this is something that has been kind of shocking to me to realize about even some of my close friends, that they don't have that with themselves. They don't feel that way. And because I love them so much, it hurts. It hurts to know that they don't love themselves in the same way. But it can change. It can change, and I'm proof that it can change. I was not this way, and I became this way. And it is truly one of my greatest strengths, being my own best friend. I am there for the highs when I'm feeling on top of the world. I just had such a perfect night. I watched everything at the bar, and people came and they went. There was a girl in a black dress with poofy sleeves. She had blonde hair, and she was talking to her husband. I think that was her husband. They both had wedding rings on, and I thought, wow, that girl looks like a Sargent painting. And her head was down for most of the time, and I kept thinking of how I would paint her because she looked like a Sargent model. And then she left, and those two seats were kind of empty for about 5 minutes. And then another couple appeared, another blonde girl with jewelry on, similar to the girl before, and also wearing a black dress with puffy sleeves. And this girl had a completely different face and a thin neck that was like a swan, but she also looked like someone from a Sargent painting. And I just couldn't believe it. And it just put the silly smile on my face. But you have to actually be there, and you have to be looking. Those are the highs. Those were like the highs of the night. And then when I left the restaurant, it was as if the city was kind of speaking to me, because the sky itself, like the sun had just gone down, and the sky was this beautiful, incredible gradation of blue to sort of orange to pink and then purple at the very bottom. And as I rode my bike home along the river, I imagined how I would paint that in watercolors, in a watercolor gradation. And I feel like I only experienced those highs because of this relationship with myself, and being able to be alone, and truly just loving my company so much. And then the lows. And the lows, I mentioned one of them, but there have been many. The lows are also an experience, and when I come out of those experiences, I can look back at them in a positive way, because I feel like, wow, you got through that with yourself. So, your best friend might be someone external, might be someone out there, but just think about making it yourself. Because if you can work on that, and if you can make it happen, it is a very precious thing.